Should teenagers
Yeah.
be given sex education? That's the first topic. And TJ, what's the second topic?
Sex.
Ah, what?
That sounded very personal, TJ. Are you sure? Are you sure you don't be lacking?
I would say
You're in need.
like,
You're itchy.
Nah, so that's the second one should be let me see. There's something so we can go like it's a bit deep. I don't want to make it too deep, but what is our purpose in life? What are we living for?
Okay,
You
well,
know?
what are we living for?
Yeah, what are we living
Like,
for?
what is the purpose of Earth, of staying on Earth, life on Earth? All right, good. What's
I mean, we can change it along the way. We just
yeah,
see,
yeah,
just
yeah,
see-
like
just
that's
see.
fine.
Alright, so first question. Let's go. Should teenagers, what was it? Should teenagers be allowed
teenagers
before
be
sex ed?
given
Giving sex
be
Be given
education.
sex ed?
Like, and when I mean sex education,
What
I
is
don't
sex
mean
Also,
like the casual like. No, should teenagers be giving sex education? That's the topic. On
so
to the
should
topic.
teenagers be given sex ed?
Sex education?
In my opinion, it depends, and also it depends on first. There are lots of factors, right? But in general, I would say not necessarily. Like there is no need for that because I don't know if you guys have heard the saying of it's better for something to be, or it's not the same, but I believe that it's better for something to just be broad and you find out through like your friends, your parents, rather than going to school and um, because if you know certain things about sex, like you would be more curious. Well, not necessarily. This is an assumption now, but you would be more curious to try it out for yourself. So, for instance, if someone tells you there's a hot kettle, like, and if you touch the hot kettle, you burn your hand. Like, if someone tells you that, that's good information, but you want to try it out. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Let's say, okay, let me burn my hand.
Let's
I mean, no one wants to burn their
Burna
hand, but
Boy.
you get what I mean.
Burna
Exactly,
Boy.
unless you're Burna Boy himself. So, yeah.
So yeah, in my opinion, I feel
Merch.
what? Where did merch come from? Well, in my opinion, I feel
Merch.
sex. Shut up. I feel sex.
Wait, can you guys hear me if I'm drinking? Like,
This drunkard. Anyway, anyway, I feel in my opinion, like the topic sex and
The topic-
kids, like they shouldn't even coexist at a certain like age, right? There's an age for it. Like when I was in GS3, I think that's when we started taking stuff on biology and stuff like that. In school, they will learn this stuff regardless, right? Biology, they're taking biology in school, so I don't really think like there's a need for. Of course, in this present age, we can say okay, since it's clearly out of control and
exactly.
it's out of control, but we all know what caused it to be this out of control. The people that had authority, the people that could control this level of, not even people, yeah, the people, their parents to start with, because if your parents don't give you that, because I feel there's like everybody should have like some certain values, standards, and like morals that they should live by.
Yeah.
And if you feel, you can't really talk to your child, because in the Western world, you see them talking about letting these kids decide for themselves. I don't know how that makes any sense. That you're allowing a 9-year-old decide whether he's a man or a woman. Like, it just where do they get these things from? Like, I just ask myself, like, this first off,
one of them would say, like,
this child is not thinking about that at all. Trust me, these kids don't care. They are very young, and yeah, if problems, maybe they run into problems.
Sorry, cut short. The second part should be what we were talking about yesterday. You know that debate we were talking about yesterday about the woman thing.
Yeah,
That's the second part. Bro. Anyway,
write it down, beg. Write it down.
The woman thing, like,
yeah, just write it down.
Yeah.
So, like, what I'm saying is, to a certain degree, these kids don't actually care. Like, they are just kids. Like, kids learn anything and everything, especially when they are very young. Like, they are very curious. So if you bring up that type of topic, they would most likely want to dive deep because they are very curious by nature. So I feel feeding them that information is kind of arming them with, like, it's giving them too much information at a very early stage, and they don't need that. They don't need, like, all they need, like I said, like what happened to me when I was little was, my mom was like, if anybody should touch you here, slap the person. She didn't even tell me report. Slap the person, then report.
Wait,
You
touch
get?
you where? I'm
On my
confused.
private parts, any of my private parts.
But
Slap
who
the
will be
person.
touching you there?
That's who
That's
normally who
that's
be touching you there.
Exactly.
But guy, things like this happen. Like, people can touch you there. Like, again.
I would presume that your mom will be telling your sister that, like,
No, she told
I mean,
she told both of
she told
us.
you guys,
She
okay,
told,
because,
like,
like,
that's
it's more
the kind
prevalent
of
for girls,
that's
like,
the kind
girls
of
to,
honestly,
voice
that's
things.
that's actually a form of sex education, right? If we're being
Yeah,
honest. And that is enough for a child. Not, oh, if you want to have sex, make sure you buy condom. That is not sex education. That is
Yeah.
after that. I don't know. That is, they already want to have sex. Then that means they want to. You're telling them, okay, have sex, but do it with this. That's very
There's
different.
there's a cardinal, like a Catholic cardinal. I don't know if he's what's his name again? Francis. He's a Nigerian cardinal. Like, he's very old now. I think he's 87 or so. But what he said was sex education should not be called. It should actually be called education to chastity. If you actually think of it, like, think of that. So you're first of all, before, like, sex education already, like the name sex education entails sex, like you're educating people about sex. So that means you're there's a purpose to that education, for that education. But if it's just like, even biology, like, I think biology is enough as sex education.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So just learning about organs, female and male.
You would
reproduction,
know with time. You would know
you
all
would
this
know
stuff.
all that kind of stuff. You don't need to
You don't need to overdo it. Yeah, no. So you have a take.
Okay, what are we talking about?
Let's
Oh, yeah.
allow
Let me
Nos to
change.
speak, please.
Oh, we're just talking about. Hold on.
Is someone asking?
Yeah, Ope is in my chat. Ope, if you want to join in, man, join in.
Yeah.
Ope is on Twitch, yeah.
No, so please speak, man. Speak your turn, bro.
Oh,
It's a table.
well,
It's a table of knowledge.
honestly, I don't think I have anything different to say. It's the exact same thing. Like, you can educate children about their bodies, for example, as they're growing up. Different things are going to start coming up. Like, let's say, for example, guys have wet dreams, women will have periods and stuff. You're going to need to talk to them about those
And
things.
question
But
marks.
it's for you to start educating them about, for example, like, in a lot of schools in the West, they educate children about things like masturbation and homosexuality and stuff. It's like, what is the point of telling these kids these things? Like, you're just giving them ideas that they're going to fester on and just build upon, and they're just going to get worse over time. So, and there's no actual need to teach children about these things, because, to be honest, and this is something that people don't really like to hear, but normal human beings don't even think of those things in the first place. Like, a normal, like, functioning male.
So only abnormal human beings think of them.
Yes, actually, that's exactly what I'm saying. It's like, a normal functioning male isn't going to be, like, have his mind preoccupied with things like masturbation or homosexuality and stuff like that. It's like, if you have something like that that takes up a lot of your thought process, you probably have an obsession, and you probably have something wrong up there. And the fact that people want to impose that onto children, it really shows, like, the state of affairs in a lot of the world today. And it's very messed up, honestly, because, like, for most of human history, thousands of years, people have been able to have happy families without being taught about how,
True.
I don't know, like, you need to be able to do this to a woman or do that. Like, certain things just naturally happen. Like, obviously, you need a foundation, and also you need to educate people so they don't get victimized and stuff like that, and they don't put themselves in stupid situations. But then outside of that, why do you need to go into excessive details? That's
Yeah,
quite
that's
inappropriate,
like too detailed.
honestly.
True. Even I don't know if you guys have watched Netflix, the show Sex Education.
Bro, yeah, I
Like-
like that show actually. Yeah.
The series, yeah. So let's see. So let's break it down. So the series, actually, obviously, they give you a few tips about sex, but there are obviously scenes in the series that entail sex. So for me, watching
Yeah.
that thing, like watching the 2 seasons, will show that, okay, I'm being educated about sex, fair enough. But then when I'm educated about sex, that would, like, I mean, they're trying to show up things, how people are acting in society. But at the end of the day, sex is obviously going to be involved in that. So whether or not I educate someone or not, like, they will still know about sex because we're biological creatures.
Yeah,
like we said,
at the end of the day.
so
Yes, yes.
the education itself doesn't actually, to some degree, okay, maybe, like,
It's-
for instance, like, I know you remember in biology, like, when they teach us about, like, women and their ovulation cycle and all that kind of stuff, that is important to a certain degree for women and men, and, when the sperm meets the egg, all that kind of thing. Knowing that alone should tell you, okay, if I sleep with someone, I get them pregnant, and like you're wise enough
This
to
leads to that.
deduce
Yeah,
something from that fact. You don't have to,
exactly,
you know, like be
exactly.
taught about condom and like all these kind of things, because that's just making you more
Yeah.
eager. Like,
Yeah,
and I also feel like talking to your friends is sex education, as you said, Uzum. Talking to your parents, like all these little things, that's already education about sex. Like,
exactly.
it doesn't have to be done in
So
school.
my own
Like,
problem with, I feel, you see, there are ages for these things, man. Because trust me, any child within the age, with any child that hasn't crossed the ages of 17, 16, 17, right? They have no business with all the excess detail and all that, because
Yeah.
you have more than enough. Biology teaches you more than enough. And to be honest, it's starting to seem as if this sex education thing is not really sex education. It is
It's
sex, it's
indoctrination,
sex
basically.
indulgement. Yes, it's more like sex indulgement. Like they are kind of pushing you to indulge in this, but do it like
Yeah.
this, because they are coming from a point of view where you must have sex, right? Because the kind of point of view they are coming from, if it was from the point of view of, okay, don't engage in sex, they will not be talking about condoms, right? They won't be talking about condoms.
Exactly.
They won't be talking about all this random stuff, all this extra stuff. But they're already coming. They can't. The fact they can't even think of a situation where these children can have strong enough willpowers, or try to at least build up their willpower and, their mental, discipline of not indulging in these activities, because it leads to this. Instead of coming from
Mm.
the angle of, we know these kids cannot handle themselves, and we'll just give them this device and they should do what they want. Or,
exactly.
is a very is I feel is a very one-sided way of teaching them. If you want to educate them, right, you can start off by saying abstain from sex and start from that. Like, you don't even need to say abstain. Just let them know, like, this leads to that, and that is enough. If they touch you here, slap them and report to your teacher. That's enough for a child. That is enough for your
Yeah.
child. I'm not here promoting violence, but that's what my mom told me, man. And bro, believe it or
So
not,
we know that
he kept
prevention is
me.
better than cure. Like that's what you're saying.
Exactly,
Like
exactly.
that's the
Everybody
brain.
knows.
Yeah.
So like I mean, we all understand the fact why they would introduce
Try to,
condoms and
yeah.
everything in the picture. But for me, as I said, age is a factor. Like because
Mhm.
obviously we know that people still do things outside the norm. Like we're human beings, so people will do things outside the norm. So they're saying, okay, especially in the West when things are so normalized and you know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
there's just so much stuff. So they have to bring in they have to bring in the cure for a lot of things because I don't know if you guys noticed that's how a lot of things are. Like a lot of things are always cure, 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 cure. They never teach about prevention, prevention, prevention.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The best form of prevention in terms of sex is abstinence. That's the best form. But then we have like things about abortion, condoms, and contraception, which is the cure or like is I mean is under okay
Like
the
a
earliest form of
reaction.
the earliest form of prevention will be abstinence, and then after abstinence will be
Yeah.
contraception and all this kind of stuff. But I suppose they're introducing all these other forms of
Stuff
abstinence
first. Yeah, they're bringing it
as the
first
first
before
yeah they're bringing it first before abstinence like we're animals that can't control
that can
ourselves.
control. Yeah. Yeah.
The truth is it's rational because if we look at throughout history, like we can see that okay back then when there wasn't actually I'm even looking up some statistics. No, so what do you think? I'm just looking up some statistics in terms of the correlation between when like people taught sex education in schools and
Yeah,
pregnancies
and what it
compared to
resulted
people
to,
not
because
taught.
I feel
Yeah,
I can beat
because
my
like
chest and tell you, like, it probably increased the amount of sex, and most likely would have increased the amount of unwanted pregnancies, because in the end of the day they'll be like, they don't need this condom, or they can't afford this condom. Nobody, it's not like the condom is free. They pay for this stuff. So some people, it's not
Yeah.
free. They don't give it to you on
actually this
is
is a
it?
statistic, right?
Is it free? Oh, okay.
Analysis. Well, this is just one. I mean, I'm just
Of
looking
course,
at
if we're talking
this
about birth control and all that, that's
yeah
different.
2022 February, right, this year.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
analysis provides population level causal evidence that funding for more comprehensive sex education led to an overall reduction in the teen birth rates at the country level of more than 3%.
Yes.
No, definitely it would help. Like, especially stuff
Yeah,
like birth
definitely.
control and stuff like that. Like, that will help. Like, some
No,
people
I
take
don't.
some
I don't
stuff.
think. I don't think it actually reduces things
It doesn't
like
reduce
pregnancy.
the
Yeah,
amount
you
of
can see the
sex.
statistics,
It just gives you
3%. So
more
it's not that
ways.
much. Yeah,
It doesn't
3% is
reduce
not that
the
much.
amount of sex, because at the end of the day, how long would you continue buying condoms? How long would you, because all these, some
That's
of
the
these
thing.
devices like this birth control stuff, you put it in you, I heard it even leads to some other like um
Sometimes hormonal
yeah, you
imbalances
get
and
like
stuff
it
like that.
destroys
Yeah,
some
Yeah.
yeah,
things in you. So any smart rational human being will know that it's not really a big deal to, just do it raw. Then you get me, you don't need all this stuff, you get me. So some people be relying on their pull out
yeah,
game and all that crazy stuff. So to me, it just worsens it. Like they are not actually using the best mode of prevention of cure
Okay,
right now.
let's go
You
down. Let's
get.
go down to the base of everything. So, in terms of like, let's talk about sex in its own entirety now.
Mm.
So, if we know, like, let's talk about the West. Like, we know that in the West, people are less religious and they don't see anything like sex for them is nothing. Like, you can have sex before marriage, all
yeah.
this kind of stuff. Then why is sex education important in schools?
I feel
Because
okay, I'll
mm,
just go first. I feel
okay,
it's bro. I'm pretty sure this sex education thing is very common with the Western guys because, bro, I'm sure if I go back to White Sands, there's probably nothing about sex education. Like it's probably just biology, and maybe they just add some more stuff to biology. But giving it that name, sex education, I feel
yeah,
it changes a lot. It changes a lot because imagine walking into a class because okay, think about it like this: you're going into a classroom to learn math. Exactly, you're going into a classroom to learn mathematics, and all of a sudden you're seeing word problems, and you're asking yourself, why am I seeing English in math class? Does it make any sense? You get, it doesn't make, it's not making
yeah,
sense. You get me? So in that
yeah,
situation, all they've done is they've brought in that term sex and put it in front of them like this is the topic. So that alone just changes the mindset people come into that classroom with, and
yeah.
it has a whole lot of repercussions and stuff, man. Like that's just what I see from that. No, so sorry, you can carry on.
And also, something I would say is that I think the rise of the need for sex education is very well connected with the whole thing of religiosity because most religious societies already have, in a sense, sex education baked into your religious morals. So there's no need for you to just take it out and then see sex as just like another biological process as eating or something, because your sex education within a religious framework also comes with moral principles that
Okay.
guide you on how to have sex. And that's actually the main issue with sex education nowadays is that they're basically telling you, okay, you can do this, 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 and this, but there's no like, should you do this, or when is this appropriate, or is there ever a context where this would be wrong for you to do? It's just like, no, as long as you have consent, then anything is okay, technically. And
Well,
that's actually a huge issue. And there's no real limit except for what most people agree upon, and that's constantly changing. So
I
Yeah.
think it's because of like, we live in a very, like, as you said,
No, so sorry. No, so
there's a
we
lot
might
of,
we might appreciate if you turn on that video, sure. Not just saying, just saying,
exactly, my guy.
just saying.
So there's a moral relativism, right? Like in
yeah,
our society. So everything, especially like if we go all the way, go all the way to like, okay, women's rights, equality is very big in the West, right?
yeah,
So I suppose they're trying to, you know, ensure that everyone, like, there's no, like, they're not trying to, even like, for instance, in Ireland where I am, the Catholic religion is like, is the predominant religion, but now the state has, disallowed some stuff that the Catholic Church had access over in the past. For instance,
yeah,
like, abortion is legal now, like things, and they've been fighting against things held by the Catholic Church and the religion. So they're promoting this
mm,
relativist thing of no one has to be religion or not. You can do anything you like. So I think sex education is a way for them to promote this thing of everyone is human. Let's just tell everyone about sex. Like, it doesn't matter whether you're religious or not, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I feel
So they
like
kind of like they've
so.
totally neglected any religious practices, and this is the thing. That's why sex education is always going to prevail. I have some stats here. Among 15 to 17 years old, 69% of boys and 72% of girls have never had sexual intercourse. This is 2021, by the way. 89% of all teen births are to unmarried couples. About 40% of sexually active teen girls aged 14 to 19 have at least one STD. Young adults 15 to 24 account for more than half of all reported cases of chlamydia and gonorrhea. Most parents want their children to wait for marriage before having sex. Almost three-quarter of parents are
You
opposed to
sorry,
premarital.
sorry. Most parents want something. Say it again.
Most parents want their children to wait for marriage before having sex.
I
Almost
pretty much bet you that those parents that want that,
never
they never did
didn't. Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
So
Hasn't
Almost
happened.
you can't
three-quarter.
really be giving commands when you're not practicing them, man. That's another
I
part.
don't believe in that. I don't believe in that. You can. You can.
You know you
Well,
can give, of course you can give commands,
yeah, you
but
can.
nobody will
But you
listen.
don't
Command
expect
is
them. Yeah,
useless.
no one
The
is going to
command
listen
is
to you.
useless. It's useless. So
Yeah, yeah.
why give a useless command? You
Almost
get.
three-quarter of parents are
So
opposed to premarital sex, both in general and to their adolescents. Waiting to have children
Mhm.
until marriage decreases the likelihood that both parents and child will live in poverty. Most
Yep.
adolescents support reserving sex for marriage, both in general and for themselves. Yeah, so like these are just, and the thing is like if we go back in time, right? Let's even just talk. I want to bring in marriage now. On like we're talking about marriage yesterday and relationships and stuff. It's so funny how nowadays, right?
yeah.
Most marriages like that are started, like that are enacted. Um, I think there's another stat actually. That 80% of marriages, um, where the woman was a virgin,
Mhm.
like last longer. Like if you're a virgin, you have an
Mhm.
80%
Mhm.
chance of your marriage lasting longer
Longer.
than if you're not a virgin.
Mhm.
And if you have so
Yeah.
many bodies, like you have like it reduces to 30%. So
Mhm.
it's logical to see that in terms of marriage itself, that the less like if you wait until marriage before having sex, your marriage will be longer. So that's another good point in terms of marriage.
Exactly, man.
Yeah.
Because I don't see like there's just like in economics. I've taken like 3 economics classes so far, and economics is very 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 nice. It's
Economical.
very lovely. It's very lovely, right? And there's this there's this particular stuff my teacher always, this example he always gives, right? The government would implement, because let's be honest, this sex education was probably implemented by the government on schools, that they should include that to their curriculum.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
get.
It was. It was. We did that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. In fact, I just thought about that because I never really thought about it from the government standpoint. So given that, my teacher always said stuff like this, which is very practical. If um unemployment rate is very high, right? And you notice that the people that are employed are not even getting paid as much, especially with inflation and all that, right? And when there's
Yeah.
inflation, you realize people can't afford what they usually used to afford with the same amount of money. You get. So
Exactly.
Mm.
because of that, the government will now say they should raise wages, right? Raise minimum wage. And if you're raising minimum wage, who does that help? That does not help anybody but the people
Because the
that
cost
are
will go up
just
with
starting
everything.
get new jobs. That only helps people that are
Yeah.
getting new jobs. That is all these people that have like very like little skill and experience. And
Hmm.
who
Yeah.
else? Who does that help? Raising minimum wage. It doesn't really help, like
It doesn't.
except
No.
people that already had jobs being paid, people that are already getting paid minimum wage, and people that are just getting new jobs. Those are like two people that get helped. You're not improving anything. You're not helping any life. You're just disguising so that it looks like the government is doing something, and they are not sitting back
Yeah.
and just keeping quiet. And man, it's obvious, man. It's obvious, man. It's obvious. Like sex education, I don't see. There is, if I'm being totally honest, there is zero need for sex education. Zero. Like there is zero need. It's the fact that you've increased the amount of sex these kids are having, right? Like, and I'm saying sex education, not. I'm saying sex education as a topic in school, like as a subject in
Exactly.
school, not as your parent telling you stuff. No, I'm saying as a topic in school.
Subject.
You
Yeah,
get.
yeah, yeah.
That should not.
Because we have
That's
to judge everything based on the results, right? So like
there was
I think
Yeah.
always there was
if we
always
look at things now,
education.
like
There
in
was
the last
always
10 years, right,
education on
we have to
sex.
base
You
stuff
get.
of like, okay, what is the result? So if we look at 100 years ago, our grandparents' times, there was no sex education there. What were the results of, we have to base things on their outcome and see, okay, if the outcome, even if they're old ideas, if the outcome of the old ideas is better than the outcome of the new ideas,
Mm-hmm.
then
Of
that
new
means
ideas.
something, yeah, something in the
You
old
know,
ideas has to
you
work
know
because we're the
why
same
I
human
I
beings.
get you. I get you. You know I have to stop you there because what you're looking at is the statistics of um. What did you say the
Mi-
statistics you looked at was? What was he on?
On
Uh,
marriage,
Good.
like how
No,
long
this is
marriages
quick
last,
look
or how
at
many of
educating sex education statistics 2021.
Good. Like what did it like? What did they achieve? What did you say the statistics showed? Like what was it?
This is just showing generalities like in statistics. Like,
Okay, but
what
you're
do you
saying
mean?
some what percent? You said the percentage of something after this.
69% of, like, for instance, among 15 to 17-year-old, 69% of boys and 72% of girls have never had sexual intercourse.
Okay, just hold
So,
on,
but
hold on. Just
okay,
sorry. So with these
right.
statistics you've given, like not this one, like because what you looked at was how sex education helped. Like now it's here compared to the past, right? That's the reason for statistics. Now we've done it. What were
Mm.
the benefits? What were the results? Right? You get
Yeah.
me? So have you also noticed how the rate of how relationships don't last as long? Rate of divorce went up. So many other things, so many other
And
factors that
there's
were
many other
never
even like
that never
darker
existed.
things, like for example the rates of things like sexual assault. It's
Exactly.
something people don't talk about.
Exactly.
Like
Like
no
in
But
the
one
now,
talks
past,
about
my
all
days,
these
wait, hold on,
you get like
hold
so many other things come into play.
on, hold on,
We are
hold on,
holding
hold on.
on. We are
Let's
holding
let's
on.
go back to the. I beg, please, can we say SA? By the way, because on YouTube
Oh
and
yes, YouTube.
Twitch,
Yeah, you
please
get
don't
but then
can't,
again,
like.
if you're not a monetized channel, then how does
Okay,
demonetization
yeah, if
work?
you're not yeah, but like I'm both of us are
It's
but just
like
in case,
No, TJ is
just in case,
monetized
cause
on Twitch.
I mean I'm monetized on Twitch, yeah. So just for me, and
oh
also
okay, okay, okay.
in case
Yeah,
anything. So
and like, yeah, we should
but
Very
follow the
true.
rules. We
I
should
want
follow
to
the
talk.
rules.
I want to talk on those SA rates, right? And I'll say SA for,
Yeah.
and I'll say grapes for,
Great
But
for it. For
the SA
for
rate,
yeah.
right? I don't know if you. I've actually done a lot of like. I've listened
Research.
to a lot of podcasts and some research, but
Yes.
those SA rates are based on the laws, the current laws right now. So,
Oh
for
yes.
instance, and if you look at like SA, right, there are lots of things that come into consideration in terms of SA. So, for instance, someone approaching you and saying hello or something, that can be classified as SA,
That's
like
it.
under the
Yeah.
law to some
Mhm.
degree. Someone
Yeah.
just like touching you like with your arm or something and saying, hey, like, that's SA. So
Mhm.
SA is very broad. So that's why there
Yes.
are more people claiming they've gotten SA. Do you understand what I'm saying? But
I
they actually
I feel SE is not
merch.
very broad, right? It's more of
Let me actually
lying is
But
very
legally,
common now.
it's broad.
Lying is very
Legally,
common.
yeah, legally. That's what I mean by it's
Deception,
legally. I'm not saying it doesn't
because
happen.
the
Don't get me
actual
wrong. What I'm
act,
saying,
no, no,
yeah.
there's a clear difference between someone that touched you to actually sexually to actually
No,
SA you, someone that
it
touched you
doesn't.
to actually SA
Yeah,
you,
that's saying
and
you. Yeah, yeah.
someone that
Yeah.
there's a clear difference, right?
Yeah,
So
but what I'm saying,
is
my point is that it's like because of feminism and women's rights,
mm-hmm.
like some women
Yeah, there's a
abuse.
lot
That's
of
what I'm
very
saying. Is
Some women
absurd.
lying,
abuse.
lying,
Yeah.
is
Yeah, it's
lying,
lying. Yeah,
deception.
that's my
There
point.
is more
Yeah, that's my point.
deception now. There's more
Yeah.
deception, more
So how
lying.
can we, since there is deception,
Mm-hmm.
how can we distinguish between the real from? Do you understand what I'm saying?
You
Like,
can you
The
can
thing is that there are
distinguish.
categories. There are categories of essay. So, for example, there's a difference between, I don't know, somebody who says that they have a one night stand and they regretted it afterwards, like too bad, versus somebody who was actually raped. Yes.
exactly.
So, like, there are categorizations. So you can actually see
You
upward
can
trends
know. You can
within
know.
those categories, not just in the general SA
Yeah,
rates.
the
Because
general
if you look
stuff
at
is
general SA
ridiculous.
rates, honestly, you're just going to get confused because so many things are lumped under it that doesn't even make
Exactly,
sense.
like some
Like
stuff
some
that
people
have
even
nothing to do
some
with
people
it.
even I've heard people even say things like, oh, any form of sexual intercourse should be considered as assault because it's an expression of a patriarchal like hierarchy
Yeah,
and all this.
Sorry
Like,
to cut you short.
no,
No,
it's
so
very dumb.
I just want to read something here. So, according to this website, this if you go on my Twitch, you guys can see where I'm getting my information from. But here it's saying that types of sexual assault include any unwanted sexual activity. So, for instance, attempted rape, fondling, unwanted sexual touch or touching, forcing victim, all this kind of stuff.
Mm,
Rape, right? So,
mm,
so now we need to look at like uh the like consent, right? And what
yeah.
consent is. So what do you guys think consent is? So for instance, let's talk of a typical SA or sexual harassment like case, right? And
Yeah.
someone goes and says I've been SA'd, um, and then I'm just making this up. Like you as a man, right? You go and you're like, okay, oh sorry,
I'm
what do
adding
you
Eric
say?
to the call.
Oh, you added something. Okay, so you go and you look and you look and then you I said look and look. You
Mr.
see that
Mappy.
there is something like what do you guys think consent is because you know the way like Uzman, you know you're telling me about psychology, right?
Yeah.
And different. You what's good, man? What's
Hey,
good, bro?
it is
Yeah.
Eric, guys.
Big,
Big
Big
Eric.
boys.
Yeah.
small Eric. But you know the way they are like everyone has different psychological perspectives towards things, right? So say for instance, someone S8 someone, right? And
Mhm.
you know what Eric, you know what I'm talking about here. We're just
Yeah,
talking
please
about
tell him topic. Who's there?
yeah, we're talking about like should teenagers be given sex education? Boys, it covers that's the branch. That's like the it
Right.
covers a lot of things. What do you think, Ashiga? What do you think?
About what?
Should teenagers be given sex education in schools?
Ah, Jesus, what a life. Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Hey, where are you? Are you abroad or in Nigeria?
Yeah, he's here with me.
Um,
He's here with me.
I'm with him.
Oh, yeah, in
with
Canada.
We're in the same place. Although we're not in the same place, but
Yeah,
we're in
he's
the
in
same.
dorms. Yeah, so like, yeah, just give your take, like, like, yo, David, what's
And
good,
you
man?
take
Yeah. So like, give your take, like, why do you think so, like, just speak.
I
on
don't
it.
really think so. Wait, could you close the door?
So you don't get cancelled in real life.
Holy!
It's not
Huh?
just get
That
cancelled in
dog
real
cooked
life.
you.
No, like someone is talking there. So, I'll say yes. Like people should be given sex education. Like teenagers. Sex is a deep stuff.
Very.
It's not just something you can just do and go away with it. It's like when you have sex with someone, you bond with someone. So
Yeah.
I think
You're talking about.
Also,
So what, can you
Also,
can you
Eric,
like
Eric, the
expand
topic.
on that?
Let me,
Expand on the
let me.
bonding.
Sorry, can I just clarify something? Right, we on we're basically talking about sex education being introduced in school as a topic. You get as a topic in school because I feel sex education is natural. Like in biology, you get to know about the parts and all that stuff. So bringing that topic, sex education in school, is most likely like the topic now because sex education is your parents in their own way will tell you something about sex, like they'll be like, oh, they don't let people touch you here or this or that, you get
Yeah.
it? So yeah, that's you, so you should like respond, now you know
Actually,
this,
I just have a different. I just thought of something now.
yeah.
Okay, so it's backing. I just thought of something. So, in terms of this sex education in schools, right? There's actually a reason for that in terms of the law. This is my own analysis. So, for instance, if there's any case of rape or SA, right?
Yeah.
They can say, okay, they can use the fact that you've been taught it in school as something that says that, oh, it doesn't matter how young you are, if you're 14, 15, you can't be saying, oh, I'm too young, I didn't know. They'll be like, okay, since I've told you about that, that should be one thing of, if anything happens, you've been taught, so therefore you are responsible.
Regardless, we all know a clear difference between a crime and a natural act. So that still doesn't stop you from, before sex education, if you rape somebody, you can literally get killed. Before all this sex
Yeah,
education,
true. I'm just saying that
we
there's
all
even
know,
a
like,
better,
there's
a
still,
better,
what I'm saying is just kind of justifying what they're trying to
exactly,
justify
that's
is
my
not being
point.
justified.
Yeah, that's my point.
They're not justifying
Yeah.
anything by bringing that or putting it in that perspective because that has always been the case. If you do all those crimes and you get caught in Nigeria, someone did that thing. They cut off. They let a dog eat his stuff. Like, bro, stuff happened. Like, like bro,
My guy had
like
to get
his meat was really turned to meat that day. You get me? So you get so my guy. Like all these disguise.
My guy was dog
it's
shit.
a form of disguise, my guy. Like it's a form of disguise. Like for me, I just feel there's always sex education naturally. So you don't need to now start telling all these young kids because we are talking about teenagers, right? Introducing that to teenagers, kids that have not even
Sex education is
crossed the
high
ages
quality
of
teaching
16.
and learning about a broad variety of topics related to sex and sexuality.
Like what
It's
does
a
a 10-year-old need to know about condom? Why are you telling a 10-year-old about condom? Like they have
Wait, when you say teenager, do you mean like teenagers are
teenagers
the ones
like
that are pretty mature now?
below like 18 now, below 18.
13 to 18 now,
13 to
teenagers.
Yeah,
Mm.
below
13 to 19.
18. Yeah, below 18. Anybody below legal age, like. In fact,
For me,
let's say-
right? For me, I'm not going to. Honestly, now, after everything we've said, I don't actually see any. There's no negative side to having it in schools. Like there's a bit of a negative side, but ultimately, every individual is responsible for their actions, irrespective of the fact
Exactly.
that, irrespective of whether you've been taught it or not. So
Exactly.
if there is sex education, like, and it leads to you exploring stuff, or if there's no sex education and it leads to you exploring stuff, you still have 100% authority, in my opinion, over your own
Exactly.
body and your choice. So that shouldn't be. I'm not dissing about, like, I understand what you're saying in terms of they shouldn't know it that young, but at the same time, if they know it or not, like the probability of them knowing it
Something
when they're
changes when
not
they know it when
is
they're
is
that young.
higher. Exactly,
Something
there's a higher
changes when they
probability.
know
Yeah.
it when they're that
So
young.
we have to work off probabilities.
Yeah. So like once like trust me, you see. I think the other day, this my cousin, the guy's like 9 or 10. He asked me something about Virgin,
Corn.
because no,
Oh,
about
Virgin.
Virgin. He was like, why do they say Virgin Mary, like Virgin Mary? And
Different.
putting me on that spot, right? I had to think like, how do I give this guy this answer that, as a kid, is appropriate for him? So I just told him, um, it means she's clean, she's pure. You guys, like, being virgin means you're clean. You get me? Like, instead of telling him it means she's never had sex or all this stuff. You get me? So that is what I'm seeing from this, like, sex education as a topic.
Wait,
Like,
but do you think as a 9-year-old you knew what sex was?
bro,
So why?
I knew. Let me tell you how naive and dumb I was. I won't call it dumb, but I was so innocent to the point that, bro, you know the word sleep, right? Sleep,
Yeah,
when they
yeah,
say,
yeah.
yeah, she slept with me or blah blah blah.
Yeah, you don't
I
think it's
used
like
to think
sleeping.
I meant like if I sleep next to my sister, so she'll have. Honestly, I was scared of sleeping close to my sister because of that stuff. I used to literally take it for face value. You get
I
me?
have
So,
to clip this one.
bro, I
Holy.
didn't know. I didn't know. Like, you get me? That's how innocent every child should be. And when did I realize? I realized that in GS3 or SS1.
So before SS1, you thought if you just sleep close to
Yeah, I
someone,
thought
they'll
if I
not get
sleep close to
pregnant.
someone, they'll get pregnant. Like, it was funny. It was.
Oh.
Yeah, that was if I kiss someone, you want
Ah,
to.
no,
You
no.
get
That
it?
one is
Like, that's how innocent a child's
holy.
mind
I
is. You don't
swear, I
understand.
swear, I
Like,
swear.
TJ, are you seeing the point? Like, guys, are you seeing the point? Like, that's
Yeah,
how
I know. I
innocent
see
a
the
child
point.
is. Like, the child doesn't need all those crazy stuff. Like, with time, they will
But we're not
learn.
talking about children. We're talking about teenagers now. We're
No,
talking
we're
about
talking about
teenagers.
teenagers are children, bro.
Nah, bro. No.
No. We're talking about teenagers are children. They are just getting to know what it
Because
feels like.
the
Their,
brain,
their
you know,
sexual stuff are just getting
yeah,
activated. So they are still
yeah,
kids.
puberty.
They
Yeah,
don't know.
true.
Puberty is a sign that you're a
But
child.
that's what I'm saying. Won't sex ed, since, like, again, I'm not advocating. I'm just coming from another angle. Like, I totally understand what I'm saying. But won't sex ed, since they are hitting puberty, won't that help them understand puberty?
What I'm
Like,
trying to tell you is there's been sex ed. Biology teaches you everything about puberty. There's always been sex ed.
so is biology sex ed?
Biology is not sex ed, but
What's
it's
biology
just
then?
like asking me. I don't know how to give you a perfect analogy right now, but you would know about sex if you study biology, right? There's a difference between I need to find an analogy, but just know that in biology, the education, sex education is already there. Like, you know about
Yeah,
if
I know what
you
you
put
mean.
this
I
here,
know.
you
It's,
get
it's
this.
teaching you about your own
You
body,
get,
like your own
there's
biology.
nothing
Yeah.
new. Sex education doesn't teach you anything that biology didn't teach you. It doesn't. It doesn't. Apart from, the new stuff which I'm telling you, this condom and all this extra stuff. That's the
Yeah.
stuff that they are probably promoting. That is all. If it would have been better if they said contraceptive education or condom education or birth control education. Like, that's a far better name to me than coming here to tell me sex education.
Because the
There's
definition
always
I'm
been
seeing of sex ed here is sex ed is high quality teaching and learning about a broad
Please.
variety of topics
You're
related to
getting
sex.
being taught by a sex education teacher that's been a virgin all his life and cannot copy a woman. Please leave this place with that nonsense.
Yeah.
Like, leave this place with that rubbish.
No,
Like,
Who me?
like, what? It's just like an entrepreneur. You're going to school to learn how to be an entrepreneur. Like, bro, what if your teacher was an entrepreneur? What is he doing in class? What is he doing in class?
Well,
he won't be
this guy
sitting
made
down
a
there
point.
teaching you
No,
that
so-
nonsense, man.
Oh, no, so you're saying something. No, so what are you saying something?
No, I wasn't.
Oh, I thought, but you made a point. So I already addressed the SA rate stuff about how
Yeah.
part of that is false. You made another point about relationships don't last as long.
Yeah.
So is that highly correlated to sex ed, or is it correlated to? Is it, wait, hold on. Is it correlated to sex ed, or is it correlated to contraception, abortion, and other stuff? Because I know sex ed encompasses that, but what
To
it takes?
me, it's highly correlated with people not being given the opportunity to get more disciplined, right? Because if you're more disciplined, you'll be able to you know to not just look for, because once something uncomfortable comes your way, you'll be able to process it better. Because if this girl doesn't talk to you down as much as she used to talk to you in the beginning of the relationship, that wouldn't bother you as much as it will bother somebody that has lower discipline levels. Because this jumping from one girl to another because you have condoms, you will not get pregnant and all that, it causes that you can't stick to something, you can't stay with something if this thing is not giving you that form of pleasure. You get me? So it's kind of like turn this whole relationship thing into a thing of like sexual intercourse. That's why these days I don't see any need to like date. Like dating is another way of just dating is basically the same thing as
So that's a good lead
as,
into the so
as,
like that's what I say we have a lot of things to talk about. So what do you guys think about dating actually? So what do you guys think about dating? Like, in 2022
Okay.
in the Western world dating?
yeah, we'll let the question
Okay.
go around. So we'll start with
Yeah.
who's ready to
So
speak.
I think before we move on, I think we've come to a conclusion that sex education does affect teenagers should not be given sex
They shouldn't.
education because they shouldn't, because if we look at the past, there was no sex education in the past and society was running. It's not like
Society was
oh
far
society was,
better, far more
society was
It was
productive,
running
actually
far more
that's
productive.
conservative.
better. So there's no so
Less suicide
exactly.
rates, less depression
Something
rates.
else, another thing.
You know, like bro,
Actually, so I have another point and question, right? So for instance, like if we look
you've been
back,
writing these questions down because they're becoming
yeah, if we
too.
look back, right? If
So
we look back
let
then,
these
right?
questions go around. Then
Yeah, question go on.
yeah.
So if we look back, like you've answered the relationship question, right? Why relationships don't last as long and shit like that? Because, but another thing I'm thinking of now, a question I want to pose, right, is actually since we're still on the sex education topic, I had a question. Remember the initial question I had? So should mothers let's start with should abortion be legal? Yes or no? What do you guys think about abortion being legal?
Abortion should
All
not be
right, I'll
Okay,
write
legal.
the rest of the
so
questions down.
It should not,
the thing is
absolutely
that
not.
the whole thing of abortion being legal, I think it's the exact same question as asking should murder be legal?
Yeah.
Because truth is, it's like in the end, abortion is a functional murder. As much as people try to make it seem like, oh, clump of cells isn't a human being. Well, technically, from an irreligious point of view, each one of us is just a clump of cells. So me killing you should actually make no difference from me killing a child. So no, it shouldn't be legal. Now, should there be exceptions?
Yeah,
Where, for
exactly. There should
example,
be
out of
exceptions for
necessity, an
rapes
abortion
and
is
stuff like
allowed,
that.
of course.
Okay,
But the thing is, it's just like any other law. There are exceptions for where murder is allowed. In self-defense, I can kill you. That's legal.
Exactly.
But
Oh my
nobody's out
god,
here
this
saying that
question so
it should be legal to murder people. So no, I don't think there's any actual
So you're
valid
saying
reason for abortion
abortion,
to
your
be
point
legal.
is abortion should not be legal, but in exceptions, in the case of
In
exceptions.
cases of
there are always
necessity, then yes.
exceptions. Like we all know
There's
there are
always
always
necessity in
exceptions.
every like
There are always
law, but then
outliers and stuff.
necessities are terrible foundations for actual
In case
laws.
of crime, anything
Okay,
criminal,
hold
it's
on, what's your
always
points? Like
anything
let's just
criminal.
like let one person speak and
Okay.
then like so we just have
Yeah,
so that's
same
another
Okay.
point.
same response.
Same
No,
thing, yeah, same
abortion
thing.
is just the way we had the sex education question. Is a frame, like saying let it be legal. It's just a frame to for the government to be like, oh, they try their best to handle this and blah blah blah. Like they're just giving you some, they're just pushing out this notion of they are actually trying to, reduce the rate of what abortion when they are actually not. Like that because if, like I said, this also boils down to like sexual, or what do you call it, sex education, right? If after the funny thing, after all the sex education, abortion rates, like what is happening, what is happening,
I
man?
think sex education encourages abortion, if you would ask me that
It
question.
does.
Like
It
no,
really
can
does.
you guys
It really
can you
does.
see
Yeah.
the level? How will
Yeah.
you bring sex education, right, bring condom, and you're still saying pushing abortion? So what happened with this that you brought? Because you brought this, so you reduce the level of unwanted pregnancies. Now there's still unwanted
Supposedly,
pregnancy,
yeah.
and now you're
Exactly.
pushing. There should be nah, man. It's all freaking paperwork, man. It's
No,
all
I think
What do you
freaking
honestly,
think,
I think yeah,
paperwork.
I
Eric?
think all of those things are just like they're kind of coping mechanisms for the way that nowadays the West approaches sex. Like sex is just seen as this other function that you should be able to do freely, and you shouldn't really have any responsibility because it's like, oh, it's just an urge, just like eating. People think of sex just like eating, so it's like, of course, if you don't have any morals governing your sex, you're just going to look for coping mechanisms to make it easier for you to indulge in your degeneracy. that's exactly what all these things are. That's exactly what things like heavy pushing of abortion is. Because in reality, the best way to stop abortion is just stop opening your legs for every man that you meet at the club. It's not that
Okay,
difficult, to be very
so
honest. But
I have
people
a
aren't
point.
taught that.
TJ,
I have
TJ,
I have a
respond
point.
your own take.
Yeah. So my own response is abortion should not be legal, even in cases of necessity. I know this might be a disagreement in terms of grip, and I'll explain why. So, um, the reason I'll say that is because, okay, I'm partially biased now in terms of my own religion. Like I'm Christian, I'm Catholic, and I don't believe in
We're all
taking
religious,
life.
but yeah, carry on.
Okay, we're all Christian here.
We're all
I thought you
religious.
said no,
No,
still
we're
the
not all.
Muslim
We're
guy.
not
All
all. We're all
religious.
religious.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
all
We're all
religious.
religious, yeah. Okay, so my point is that the reason I'm saying in terms of in cases of grape is because even in cases of grape, right, you can give that child. I know you didn't ask to be graped, right? But okay, actually, I don't want to talk about grape too much because it's like the 0.001%, and it rarely happens in today's society.
It's really
Like,
rare. That's the thing.
it's
People
very
overdo
rare.
it.
So I don't even
Kind
think
of
we should
like
talk about
incest
it actually.
is so
But even
rare,
in those
like,
cases, I still think that even if it wasn't your intention,
Mm.
unfortunately, I know this will sound harsh, but the situation you were in, like okay, let's say for instance you're at home. Would you get raped at home?
Yes, you can
No.
get robbed. They
No.
can break into your house and rape you, bro.
Most like no, but that's kind of like
No, like-
okay, no,
how like
You
okay,
it
let's think of
happens.
exceptions. Yeah, it does happen.
It
But
happens.
so people will just break into your house and grape you.
It happens. Like,
Okay, now hold on. Now let's analyze that situation.
also,
If that does happen,
just saying something like, you guys can turn on your videos, man. Like,
as
just
in,
say
like,
it,
what are you guys doing, bro? We're
what's
having a
this, man?
podcast, man.
What's
Like,
this,
enjoy,
man?
like, you
let
know,
me see.
show your
Oh,
face.
my own
Man.
is now. If I turn on video and they take light,
Guys, it's part of it,
That's
guys.
awful.
It's part of it.
Guys, it is
It's
what
part
it
of
is,
it,
man.
guy. You find
Oh,
the
is it-
touchlight.
Wait, if you turn on
what's
video
my
and
screen?
take that.
Like, I didn't even realize my screen was black and white. So, wow.
You just because
Hold
like
on.
it's more of a, what do you call it, an interaction when we can see.
Okay, so
Yeah,
we've
so-
agreed on the abortion thing, Sha. Like, we've agreed.
Hey,
There we
Yo,
go.
what's
Gym
good,
rat.
bro?
Let's go.
Holy. This guy's not even. I thought this guy was going to be, you know, show me things, bro. Like,
I beg, we came here for podcast, TJ. Relax.
We
We came here for
no, I thought you'd
podcast.
be like bigger than that, bro. Like, I thought when you said gym rat, I thought you meant
Yeah,
like
he's
proper.
bigger
Like,
than
No,
that,
nah,
guy. He's
camera
bigger than that.
angle,
This
single
camera angle is
and
bigger
all
than
that.
that. He's
alright.
bigger than
Anyhow,
that.
Sha. So we've
It's
agreed on the
scary.
abortion thing. Okay,
Yeah.
now let's go back
I
to
see
my
that
original question.
forearm. Holy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so
Let's go
guy.
back to the original
He's a
question. Yeah.
beast.
So the original question I had was,
Yeah.
if abortion is we know like abortion is legal in certain areas, like, so if women can have abortions, right,
Mhm.
should that allow, as I said, if you know the woman is allowed to take to excuse herself of being a mother by having an abortion,
Yeah.
right, is the man also, should the man also be allowed to excuse himself of being a father by just saying I don't want to be a father and I don't want to take care of the child anymore, and why?
Can we, sorry, before we get to that question, is it possible we start off with the question of if anybody should be, because why are we all, promoting this? Because people are running away from their responsibilities. Before that happened, you knew you were going to get into that situation. You knew.
Yeah, no, I'm going to get back.
I think we should start with that before we boil into that.
We've already talked about that. Okay, actually, you're right.
Should
You're
people
right.
be allowed to jump away from responsibilities they naturally should,
No,
get out
I
of?
believe every
You get?
individual should have
So,
take accountability for themselves.
Because why should she be allowed? Even I think these are the kind of things that should be legalized. Like, you cannot be allowed to, get involved in this kind of practices. Then,
But you are right
out.
now. Let's just deal with where it is right now. I know, I understand what you're saying, but let's just answer the question first. Then, like, so if we already know abortion is legal, we can't change anything about it right now. Right now, abortion is legal
in
in
some
certain
places,
areas.
but yeah,
In certain areas. So